Bad automation does not look broken at first. It looks efficient. A task disappears from your calendar. A message gets sent automatically. A spreadsheet updates itself. A workflow moves from one tool to another without you touching it. For a few days, it feels like leverage. Then the exceptions start. One input arrives in the wrong format. One customer gives an unusual answer. One tool changes a field name. One automation runs twice. One important message never gets sent. One decision happens without the right context, and suddenly the system that was supposed to save time starts creating work you cannot see clearly. This is the hidden cost of bad automation. It does not always fail loudly. It creates maintenance. It creates confusion. It creates small errors that nobody owns. It creates operational debt. And the problem is usually not the tool. The problem is that the automation was built before the system around it was designed. There is a difference between automating a task and designing a system. A task is a single action. Send this email, move this file, summarize this text, update this row, create this reminder. A system is the full operating loop around that action. What triggers the work? Where does the information come from? Where does the current state live? Who owns the decision? What should happen when the input is unclear? What gets logged? Who gets alerted? How does the system recover? How does it improve next time? Bad automation skips these questions. It starts with the exciting part, the workflow builder, the AI model, the integration, the template, or the trigger. But if the operating logic is missing, automation does not remove work. It moves the work somewhere else. Often it moves the work from visible effort into hidden maintenance. Before automation, you may have had a manual task. It was slow, but you understood it. After bad automation, you may have a faster workflow, but now you also have invisible problems. Checking if it ran, fixing broken records, explaining strange outputs, cleaning duplicated actions, rebuilding trust when people stop believing the system. That is automation debt. Automation debt is the work created by automation that was added before the process was clear enough to support it. It is not always obvious at the beginning. At first, automation debt looks like progress. The dashboard looks active. The workflow has many steps. The tool says everything succeeded. The system feels modern. But underneath, there may be no ownership, no monitoring, no recovery path, and no clear source of truth. Let us break down the 5 missing layers that make automation create more work. The first missing layer is ownership. Every automation needs an owner, not just a builder, not just the person who connected the tools, not just the account that owns the API key. An owner means someone or some defined role is responsible for the outcome of the workflow. If the automation fails, who checks it? If the data is wrong, who corrects it? If the workflow creates a risky decision, who approves the next step? If the system becomes outdated, who updates it? When ownership is unclear, automation becomes abandoned infrastructure. It may keep running, but nobody truly owns whether it is still useful, safe, or accurate. This is how small automations become operational clutter. The second missing layer is monitoring. A workflow that runs without monitoring is not reliable automation. It is hope. Good automation does not only execute, it reports. It should be clear when it ran, what it changed, what failed, what was skipped, what needs attention, and whether the result is normal or unusual. Without monitoring, the human operator still has to check everything manually. That means the automation did not remove work. It just changed the type of work from doing the task to supervising a black box. If you need to manually inspect every result because you do not trust the automation, you have not created leverage yet. You have created a fragile assistant. The third missing layer is recovery. Most people design automation for the happy path. They imagine the input arrives correctly. The API responds, the model gives a clean answer, the user behaves predictably, the database updates, The notification sends. But real operations do not stay on the happy path. Inputs are messy, tools fail, limits are reached, files are missing. People write things in strange formats. One service changes behavior without asking you. A system that cannot recover from normal failure will create more work every time reality appears. Recovery does not need to be complicated at first. It can be simple. Pause the workflow, mark the item as needs review, send an alert, log the error, preserve the original input, and make it easy to retry after correction. The point is not to prevent every failure. The point is to avoid silent confusion. The fourth missing layer is decision gates. Not every step should be automated. Some parts of a workflow are safe to automate. Formatting, routing, summarizing, drafting, classifying, checking status, preparing options. Other parts may need a human gate: publishing, spending money, changing public messaging, deleting data, approving sensitive replies, or making decisions that affect trust. Bad automation treats every action as if it has the same risk. Good automation separates routine execution from sensitive decisions. This does not make the system weak. It makes it governable. A decision gate is not a failure of automation. It is part of reliable automation. It says the system can prepare the work, but the final step requires approval. The fifth missing layer is feedback. Automation should not stay frozen. If the same error happens repeatedly, the system should teach you something. If people keep correcting the same output, the prompt may need improvement. If one workflow creates more exceptions than value, maybe it should be simplified. If one step always needs manual review, maybe that step should not be automated yet. Without feedback, automation becomes a pile of scripts. With feedback, automation becomes a system that improves. This is the difference between a shortcut and an operating asset. So how do you avoid automation that creates more work? Start smaller than you want to. Choose one workflow. Define the real problem. Map the manual process. Choose one source of truth. Decide who owns the outcome. Add monitoring. Add a recovery path. Add decision gates where risk is high. Then automate only the parts that are stable enough to support automation. A useful test is this. If the automation fails, will we know? If it gives a strange result, can we review it? If it changes the wrong thing, can we recover? If the owner is unavailable, is the state still understandable? If the tool disappears, does the operating logic still make sense? If the answer is no, the workflow may not be ready for automation yet. And that is not a problem. Sometimes the right move is not more automation. Sometimes the right move is to clarify the process first, because automation amplifies whatever already exists. If the process is clear, automation can create leverage. If the process is confused, automation creates faster confusion. If the ownership is clear, automation can reduce burden. If ownership is missing, automation creates abandoned responsibility. If monitoring exists, automation becomes visible. If monitoring is missing, automation becomes hidden risk. The goal is not to automate everything. The goal is to reduce operational drag. That means fewer repeated tasks, but also fewer invisible problems. Fewer manual steps, but also fewer unexplained failures. Less time spent doing the work, but also less time spent wondering whether the work happened correctly. Good automation should make the system calmer, not just faster. So before you build your next workflow, ask 5 questions. Who owns this? Where is the source of truth? How will we know it worked? What happens when it fails? Which decisions should remain human-controlled? If you can answer those questions, automation can become leverage. If you cannot, automation will probably create more work. Build smaller, build clearer. Build systems that can be monitored, recovered, and improved. That is how automation becomes an asset, not a liability,